Hey everyone, Jexie here. Welcome back to another video. This video is kind of inspired by my live stream that I did on Saturday. If you didn't get a chance to see that, I'll link it in a card here and I'll put it down in the description. One of the things that I was talking about was the terms we use in a derogatory way to talk about people with addiction. For example, using the words drunk or junkie. And I thought we could kind of explore how we feel about those specific words in this video. So there's definitely a lot of words that we use to describe people who are dealing with addiction. Even the terms alcoholic versus the word addict can have very different connotations. I know that there are a lot of people who identify themselves as alcoholics and very much stay away from saying that they feel like they're also addicts. Even though the definitions are just about the same, an alcoholic's definition, just dictionary definition, is someone who has an addiction to alcohol. An addict is somebody who has an addiction. So they're the same thing. An alcoholic is just a little bit more specific. But we do see the terms have different connotations. You know, right now there is a less of negative connotation if you say you're an alcoholic versus saying that you're a drug addict. And in a lot of places, you know, drugs, we consider alcohol to be a drug. Any mood or mind-altering substance can be classified under the word drug. So why is there such a difference? I would say, this is just my personal thoughts, that the reason the term alcoholic doesn't have such a negative term is because we see it used a lot more in media, and also programs like AA have been around for a lot longer than programs such as NA. For those of you who don't know, NA is a 12-step program that is based off of the principles of AA, but AA has been around a lot longer and definitely has way more meetings than NA does, especially in more rural areas. We also see AA represented in a lot of media, and including popular movies, and so we see the word alcoholic is generally associated with somebody who's in recovery. We see the term drunk for somebody who has a problem with alcohol who is not in recovery. So generally, if you describe somebody as an alcoholic, there's automatically a question of whether they still have a problem with alcohol or whether they're in recovery. I think the term addict doesn't have that same double meaning as much, even though it should. There really shouldn't be a difference between saying an addict or alcoholic in terms of whether the person's in recovery or not. Those terms don't really give us any information about a person's recovery status, but when we hear the term addict, especially if we say drug addict, we assume use. We assume that this is somebody who's still using drugs actively, even though that may not be the case. For example, I will call myself an addict regularly because that's what I am. I am a person who suffers from the disease of addiction. Therefore, I classify myself as an addict. I haven't used drugs or any mood or mind-altering substance in almost like 6.5 years now. So I think we need to be very careful about how we take our personal views about language and use them to describe people. The reason that this kind of came up to me as a topic that I thought was worth discussing was I started hearing the word junkie a lot this last week, and I brought it up in my live stream. Again, it's linked wherever you need to see it. And it got me to thinking, like, what exactly do we mean by junkie? Is that somebody who's actively using drugs? Is it somebody who uses one particular drug? Is it somebody who's homeless using drugs? Like, what is it that we mean by that? And the way it was used towards me was used to discredit my opinion. So as I shared in my live stream, I had a couple weeks ago, I commented on like a Wendy Williams video or something, I don't even remember, that was about addiction, and I had given my perspective, and I am a generally non-controversial person. I try really hard to make sure that my opinions are known as being just my opinions, and that information I give is as open-minded as possible to not make anybody feel like excluded. I want people to feel welcome and comfortable talking about their views, even if they're different from mine. So I generally will post comments that are not controversial. So it's not like I wrote something, I can't remember exactly what I wrote, and maybe if I can find it in while I'm editing, I'll put it up here, but it wasn't anything super controversial. And I'm pretty sure I just gave my own experience as somebody who had had some clean time. Well, somebody responded, and their response was just very quick. It said, "Shut up, you junkie." And I was a little taken back. So I responded to that just because I thought that that term warranted a response. So all I wrote in the response was, "I don't feel that the word junkie is really a good description of who I am. Having 6.5 years clean, I don't really feel like that term describes me. I prefer to consider myself a recovering addict." Now, obviously, that person, if they're going to write that I'm a junkie and shut up, doesn't actually care about my perspective. But I thought it was important for anybody reading the comments to see my response to something so derogatory. If I jump down the throat of every person who made a derogatory comment about addicts, alcoholics, drug addicts, junkie, whatever, it would totally be counterproductive to what I'm trying to do on my channel. I'm trying really hard on this channel to openly discuss addiction and recovery in a real life sort of way. We have plenty of people who discuss it from a medical standpoint, and I think that's great. I think we need up-to-date, scientific, medically proven information available. That's wonderful, but that's not my experience. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a researcher. I can do research on the internet, but that's not the same thing. So I can't come to you giving you information from a scientific medical perspective. That's not who I am. All I can tell you is my personal experience with addiction and with recovery. And so I feel like we don't have a whole lot of that around. We do have some channels that I have mentioned before that I think are wonderful. And I think the more people that are out there talking about their personal experience with recovery and with addiction, the more we can have real conversation about what that means. What are the hardships? How can we help others find recovery? Because addiction is a problem that's not just the US is facing, but worldwide. And especially with the opioid epidemic, addiction is killing people way more frequently now than it has in any years past. So being open about the topic is something I think is important. So I respond to things like, "You're a junkie," just because I want people to know that no matter the hate that I may get or the derogatory comments that may come my way, I'm still going to share my experience. I don't expect every comment I'm going to get to be like loving and supportive, right? I'm a recovering addict. People generally get really aggravated at addicts having opinions on things. I don't know why. I don't know why we're looked down on. You don't see those types of comments being made to somebody who has cancer or who has diabetes or who has any other chronic illness. But we do see it with people who suffer from addiction. I don't know why that is, and I can't change other people's perspectives. But what I can do is I can respond in an adult sort of way, right? I don't have to be like, "How dare you call me a junkie? What's the matter with you?" Because look, I guess I'd say I was a junkie, right? Like if I lived life every day with drugs being my main focus. I live to use and use to live. That is a direct quote from What is an Addict in the NA program. That would absolutely describe me. From the time I woke up until the time I went to bed, my focus on the day was how to get the next drug. So yeah, if I was going to say, what does a junkie mean? That to me sounds like a junkie. So sure, was I a junkie? Let's say yes. However, I don't think that that term describes me today. I don't live to use and use to live. I live a life of recovery. I don't wake up every day thinking about drug use anymore. I wake up every day like a normal person and think about what I have to do for the day. Drugs don't cross my mind for most of the day. And that's because I'm active in recovery. There are a lot of people out there in different places in their recovery that do still think about using. That doesn't make them junkies. That makes them in recovery. Recovery is hard. But by working together and talking through these things, we don't have to feel put down. People are going to put down addicts. That's just going to happen. It's just going to be part of life. But by talking together, we can realize that no matter what some jerk says on the internet, it doesn't mean that that's real. I don't have to take one bad comment and make that totally affect how I feel about things. Internet trolls are internet trolls. They're everywhere. Go on any YouTuber's video and scroll down and you will see trolls from all of them. Nobody's immune to it. So just because I have a smaller channel and I'm in recovery, I'm not going to make myself seem like I'm immune to any haters out there. It's just going to happen. But you know what? The way I look at it is this. If I'm getting haters, that means I'm reaching an audience. And if I'm reaching an audience, that means people are hearing my message, which is good. Because you know what? Recovery is possible. Together, we can do this. So thank you so much for tuning into another video. Sorry if this was a little bit more like serious, but I see it happening a lot online, and not just to me, but to even other smaller YouTubers out there. And I just want to make sure that nobody's discouraged about continuing to share their message simply because some people write comments that are just trolling. That's all it is. So I hope you guys have an awesome day, and I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. That's the only way for you to know when I upload new videos, and I love having conversations. So thanks again, and I will see you next time.